Hello, hi, and welcome to another season of Wellness in the Workplace. My name is Mbali Mzinyane, and as usual, I am your host. Wellness in the Workplace is a podcast that aims to equip new and experienced professionals with the tools and insights to navigate challenging workplace dynamics. I absolutely cannot believe it that we are 3 seasons in. It's been lots of learning, lots of growth, and a lot of personal and professional connections that have formed on the podcast and beyond. And I'm absolutely delighted to kick off season 3 with our series, My Career Story. Now, if you listened to season 2, you would have noticed that we started this series last season already. We had 5 amazing guests from all different walks of life. They came onto the podcast to talk about their career journeys. They spoke about their career stories, what it is that they had to overcome, some of their learnings, milestones, and how it is that they got to be where they are today. And we are continuing that with our guest for the first episode of season 3. I am honored to be introducing Fulufhelani Mashapa. She is an actuarial scientist. She's a One Young World ambassador and a newly published, and might I add, self-published author of the book Mind Your Sense, which is a practical guide to personal and financial wellness. Welcome to Wellness in the Workplace.
Thank you so much, Miley. This is amazing.
Thank you.
I'm so glad to be here. Yeah.
Thank you for
Yeah.
waking up early and making the time.
I'm an early riser, so I'm sort of used to this.
This
yeah.
is in your groove. The fact that you had an appointment before even coming here and it's this early just definitely proves that you are an early riser. There's so much that I want to talk to you about, not only just your career story, but just talking about your book that is on display right here. So if you're watching this on YouTube, I mean, please do take note of the book, Mind Your Sense. It's right here on display. If you're listening to this, take note of the name so that you can Google it afterwards.
Definitely.
Yeah, but let's take it back, all the way back to, when you started out, your childhood, and really just what contributed to the women that I'm seeing right in front of me today.
Sure. That's like
a lot.
Really packed question. Exactly. Feels like you're going into therapy and they're like, so what happened to you?
What happened to you? We don't want the what happened to you. We just want to know what were the details of of like some of the things that just contributed to
the person
that you are.
Yeah. So as you introduced me, I'm Fulufhelani, and I think it all starts with my name, right? It's the full version is Fulufhelani Zinderani Zano Zote.
Okay.
Which means in all your ways, trust in the Lord. I think my parents had a message to give there. Mm-hmm. And I think just in defining who I am, I've defined myself earlier on in my life as someone who's smart because I've always been a smart kid.
Okay.
And you come across challenges, you go to university, you're doing well, but you're also failing or struggling with other things. And sort of your identity as a smart person starts to crumble to say, but if you're not the brains, then who are you? Yeah, what are you? And I think university was that for me, like a place of self-discovery and just understanding my identity and who I am as a person. And that's when I realized my spiritual being is actually the highest form of being that sort of flows into all the other things that I do.
Sure.
So now when somebody says, who are you? I say, I'm a child of the Most High God, because everything else that I do, who I am, what I do physically, what I do emotionally, what I do, like my work mentally and all of that, it flows from that place. And from that identity of being a child of God, then I can say, I'm a dreamer. Because God inspires me to dream and want to bring those dreams and visions to life. And after doing that, I can then impact and inspire other people to go after what they've always wanted to do. And I can say the last one will be, I'm a lifelong learner.
Okay.
And I just take everything as an opportunity to learn and grow. Then there's no such thing as wasted experiences in life. We might not see how everything comes together, but if you can embrace the journey and everything that comes with it and the lessons that come, they help you become a better version of yourself. So embracing the learning. I grew up in the dusty villages of Limpopo.
Okay.
I'm a rural girl. Grew up in the boonies, the villages.
Alright.
Yeah, it was a village on a valley between
Yes,
mountains. A
yes.
very close knitted community, and where everybody really just cared about the next person and us just protecting each other. To a point where, like, growing up, we never really experienced crime. I mean, I started becoming scared of people stealing other people's stuff when I started moving to the city. But before that, it's like, we look out for each other. If I see something weird happening in your house, I'm like, hey, there's someone in your house, what's happening? So grew up in that type of community, and my family, almost like majority of my family members stay in the same village. So I wasn't only raised by my parents, but my uncles, my aunties, my older cousins, older brothers. So really grew up as a child who's supported by my family. And I wrote on my status yesterday, and I was like, my family, the way they support me and hype me up, sometimes I feel like you guys are overdoing it. And I was just saying, but I wouldn't have it any other way, because it is that support and assurance, and them just saying, we see you, we see the heart and everything that you're doing, and we are behind you. So all of that sort of, all of that influenced the person that I am
That you are
today.
today. Yeah. And I mean, you can't discount the value of that kind of support structure, right?
You can't.
Because it just makes you go and grow exponentially than you would on your own. So that's such a beautiful thing to, like, recognize and to also just have. Because you would assume that it's there for everybody,
It's
but
not.
it's not. It's not. So that's such a beautiful
not.
thing to just hear from you. So you mentioned that you are from a small village, but you studied in a big city of Cape Town. Then you came to Joburg to do work here. I want to know about the transition from when you went from high school to UCT. How did you, number one, get to decide what you wanted to study? And what was that transition like of moving from, like, a small town village girl to the big city with the lights, cameras, and action, and at least a beach?
That was important. That was the main motivation, by the way. But so starting with how I decided to study actuarial science, I remember grade 9, I was really good at maths. Even, like, from a very young age, I've always been, like, the smart one. And never really struggled with, like, school and all of that. And when I got to grade 9, my maths teacher was like, okay, there's an external assessment coming up for all the schools. It's going to be a maths paper and an English paper. And I got, like, 100% for that. And then he was like, what do you want to study after high school? I mean, at the time, I wanted to be a pilot because it seemed like it was pretty cool flying, all over the world. I was like, maybe I'll be a pilot or something, some engineer, like chemical engineer. And he was like, but have you considered actuarial science? I was like, okay, what is that? He's like, I see you're really good with numbers. Your grades are amazing. I also just feel like whenever I teach you, like, you look bored. So this will be, like, a really challenging course for you. You will actually enjoy it. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll do my research and then, like, try see if I want to do this thing that this person is recommending. So I spoke to my sister, started like chatting to some of her friends who were doing actuarial science at the time. And I was like, okay, I think this might be something that suits my personality, given that I really love challenging myself. I love stretching myself. So I decided right there and then, this was 2012, that I wanted to be an actuary. So I was like, I'm going to be an actuary. I need to get my grades up. I need to get, like, scholarships and bursaries to fund this whole thing. And I just worked really hard all the way till matric. Managed to be, like, the top student in Limpopo in matric.
Amazing.
I think 2015 was, like, the highlight of my academic career. I was like, girl, I'm proud of you.
Girl.
I'm that girl. And sometimes I have to go back and be like, oh, that girl was crazy. I did that. Even set a record for my province as well.
Amazing.
And I was like, this is amazing stuff. And then decided now we're gonna go to UCT. And then there was
Did you already have it, like, in the back of your mind that you'd be moving to, like, Cape Town, you'd be going to UCT, or did you have, like, a short list?
No. I literally said I was going to go study actuarial science at UCT. And the main reason was I wanted to be far away from home for some reason. I want to start over, new city, whatever.
Reinvent yourself.
Reinvent myself. Well, when I got there, I was like, nah, that wasn't a good idea. Because I didn't realize how much I relied on my family for support and just to get me through tough times. And now having to have that support over the phone, it wasn't really the same. Like I could simply just walk to my mom and tell her about this bed test that I wrote, and then we'll chat about it. But now I need to call. Sometimes she's at work, so it's like, dude, you're on your own. You realize. So that first 6 months in Cape Town, those were really tough.
Sure.
But I think what I quickly did was to find friends at Riz who were like also studying actuarial, and they were also far away from home. So we sort of became this little community of gals who just wanted to get through first year of actuarial science. And that community then became a really big contributor to just the rest of my university career. I always say it takes a village to actually get a degree. And I saw that firsthand because we had so much work and limited time. You needed to outsource some of the notes, summaries and whatnot. You study this chapter, I study that chapter. Let's come together, discuss and make sure that we're ready for the test. So having friends and people who are just like equally driven or even more driven than you really, really helps. And I saw that in university. I wouldn't have gotten through varsity without my friends.
Your
Shout out to all my friends, actually. All my study buddies.
All of them. So a common thread that I'm picking up from what you're saying is that you had your family as your village throughout your primary and high school academic career. And then when you got to varsity, you had your friends as a village. So support structure that has been carried through in different stages of your life. And I'm actually interested to find out what that looks like now. Now that you're a professional, you've been in the working space for a couple of years. But before we talk about that, that then time in university and having, your friends and your community, you mentioned earlier that this was a degree that could like potentially challenge you. Did you feel that challenge?
Oh, I did. I did. I think my main challenge was I didn't do accounting and I didn't do economics in high school. Didn't do AP maths. So already, I mean, we say like the maths that you do, not the maths literacy that you do in high school, is supposed to be the difficult maths. But there's like a maths on a higher level, advanced mathematics, which other people from private schools will normally be exposed to. So in first year, they already knew the stuff. Whereas for me, I had to learn like all of those things from scratch. Things like accounting, I had to literally learn what's the difference between a debit and a credit, and like just get into that zone of how things work. Whereas if somebody did accounting in high school,
they've got the foundation.
They've got the foundation already. So it's like in as much as, they might be adding new concepts or new ways of doing things, they already have an understanding of what's going on. So I quickly realized that I had to adapt and ask for help. And I think I had a friend who did accounting in high school. We're in the same race. So I'll do my tutorial, go to her room and we will discuss it. She really brought me up to speed with accounting. Advanced maths, I had another friend from my bursary who did AP maths. So it was like, okay, cool. I'm struggling with this. They'll help me understand. So those friends really pulled through for me. And I was really good in stats for some reason. So I would then like help them out with stats. So it became like a give and take type of relationship. It was really challenging. We had to learn how to code for the first time. You're like looking at this programming thing. You're like, what is this? What am I supposed to do? What do you want from me? But just doing it, I think that's why I always emphasize on my friends really saved my degree.
Got you.
And I believe we saved each other's degree to some extent, because there was a lot that I had to learn within a very short space of time in order for me to qualify for second year. So just adapting quickly really helped.
And then fast forward to now, you're at the end of your journey at UCT. You're about to go into the working world. Where are you mentally, academically, and even financially? And I bring the financial aspect is because a lot of university students have that burden of having to think about, okay, now I have all of this debt that I've accumulated over the years throughout my studies. When I go out to work, my first priority is probably going to have to be paying it off. So where are you at the end of third year? And I don't know
Yeah.
if you went as far as honors.
I did
You did
honors,
honors,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So then when you got to the end of your honors year,
Yeah.
where's your headspace at mentally, emotionally, academically, and then financially?
Yeah, I think first year was the hardest year for me. And after like first year and third year for some reason.
Okay.
First year was like the hardest with adjustments and stuff. And then second semester, like I started cruising. Second year I was like flourishing.
Okay.
Third year there was this one module that I was just like, what is this? I just never got it.
Yeah.
It's called contingencies.
Okay.
And I literally just passed that module. I was like, you see, this is the hand of the Lord. There was no way.
That's my other support system.
That's my other support system. I was like, there's just no way.
Yeah.
But when I got to fourth year, which is final year and honors year, I was like, okay, cool. I sort of know how things work. I think I was more comfortable with how things work and sort of confident as well in like what I need to do. I knew what I needed to do to like get the grades and still do really well. So fourth year was like really amazing. And I think that's when I really started thinking about you're going to start with the world of work next year.
Sure.
So there are expenses that you'll have to incur like in your first month of work. But lucky enough, I had a bursary.
Okay.
So I already had a job in my final year.
Oh, nice.
So it was a thing of, okay, cool, you're just doing the interviews in order for them to decide where to best place you in the upcoming year. So I actually wanted to interview with other companies, but decided it's just gonna be a lot of work. I have a lot of work that I need to do as a final year student. So opted to just go with my bursary. And I guess the debt that I had was the 4 years work back period to my bursary. And that's sort of how I started. And I also had a bit of savings from my metric awards and stuff. Managed to like put aside most of the money. So starting out, I was like, I can actually start out without my parents' help because of all the savings that I had. Because in university I wasn't really a big spender. So even with some of my bursary money, I would just put that aside. Which really helped in just preparing for that first month of work, because you realize it's just you finish writing exams and suddenly you're looking for accommodation. You want to move your stuff up to Joburg. You're thinking, what am I going to wear when I go to the office? Because we used to go to the office at the time. There are so many things happening that require money. So if you do have savings, that sort of helps, which it really helped in my case.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So in this transition then, first year world of work, what does that look like for you? And how you're adjusting moving to yet another big city, because that's when you moved up to Johannesburg.
I think coming back to Johannesburg was like reuniting with my family. Because a lot of my family members at the side, which also just influenced, like after 4 years at UCT, I was like, no ways, I'm not going to do that again. I want to be able to just say, hey, Kaz, I'm coming. Are you home? Or like, hey, sis, I'm going to be pulling through in the next hour or 2 hours. So that really influenced my decision to say, I don't want to work in Cape Town unless like it's a really like big opportunity, like once in a lifetime opportunity where I'm like, this will just like make a big difference in my career. But there has to be like a lot of stuff for me to say I am not moving to Joburg. So when I was interviewing, I even told my bursary, like, the only way you guys can make me stay is if you give me a position in Johannesburg. Because I realized I really wanted to spend time with my family. I think I'm a big family person. So
coming through.
Just being with my family makes a lot of difference. So I know like that's where I thrive, like when I'm surrounded by the people that I love. So I was like, Joburg it is. So coming this side, the transition was easier than like moving to Cape Town, because it's like they're familiar faces. I can always say, okay, this weekend I'm going to spend it with my sister or my brother. So it really made a difference. And just at work as well, I found really good mentors at work that helped me to sort of transition to the world of work. And even though I've left Old Mutual now, I'm still in contact with my mentor from like first year of work, because she was the one person who set a really good foundation in terms of this is how you build a career, and these are the questions you should constantly be asking yourself throughout your career. So having those people who walked the journey with me from the start, even to this day, really helped with the transition to like, okay, this is happening at work. Like my manager said this, I don't know, like,
how do I respond?
How do I respond? Like, what do I say?
Yeah,
or like, I'm not happy with my money. How do I tell my manager I want more money? Exactly. So it really helped having mentors who are like, okay, cool.
Guide you and coach you. Yeah.
Coach you in terms of this is how you approach this conversation. This is who you talk to. Don't say this, don't do that. So that really helped to sort of help me with the transition.
Yeah. That's really, really good. I think you're highlighting on such an important part around mentorship and coaching, right? Because transitions do need people who have walked the path to make it easier for you.
Yeah.
And that's where mentorship comes in. Just in terms of your mentor, though, did you seek one out, or were you allocated one as part of like your bursary?
Oh,
scheme?
yeah, they did.
Okay.
They allocated me. So they actually had this personality thing.
Got you.
We answered some questionnaires and stuff, and they had to match us with people that have similar interests and like more or less the same personalities. So we immediately just clicked. I know other people who allocated mentors and it just never worked out. Yeah, but with me and her, we just sat down, met for the first time. I was like, I like you. Can we do this even next year? Because it was supposed to be like a 12 months thing. I was like, nah, I like you. I'm keeping you. You are not allowed to quit on me. And we just got along. And even to this day, we go out for coffee and she keeps checking in on me and I check in on her to say, oh, this is sort of where I am and this is what I'm going through. And that really helps.
That's really great. That's really great.
Yeah.
So what, 4 or 5 years into your career right now, what have you learned about the world of work?
Ooh, that's a deep question because there's so much to say. But I think the important one is you are literally sitting on the driving seat, like you're the one driving your career and not making like decisions about your career just means you are handing over that control to someone else. Sure. And that might not necessarily be in your interest because everybody at work, they have their own agenda. Like my manager has his own agenda. I have my own agenda. And we're all just running after some scorecard or wherever we want to go. So you not being decisive about what you want out of your year, not even like your whole entire career, but out of your year at work just means you will end up doing everything that other people want you to do and not what you want to do.
So powerful.
Yeah. So be on that driver's seat. And also that doesn't mean you know everything or you know exactly what you want. And I think that's also something I struggled with to say, but I don't know what I want. I just started. How am I supposed to know like where to go, like what to do? Because everybody, when you're sitting in those PD discussions and they say, what do you want to learn? What is it that you want to focus on this year? If you don't have an idea, then your manager will say, oh, but there's this in the team, there's that. How about this? How about that? So if you are not thinking about this is what I want, then you end up just going everywhere else. And which is sometimes a good thing because you might stumble upon something that you want. Other times it's like you might just now go here, go there, and your life doesn't really make sense because you're not keeping stock of these are my skills. This is what I still need to learn. This is sort of where I am and how do I get there? So also just being open to learning. Being in the driver's seat doesn't mean you have all the answers, but you seek out opportunities to learn. And to also show up as your confident self and working on your confidence and your voice. Because I think the way we raise, we told you're supposed to, respect adults. You are not supposed to like backchat, which was very weird in my first year of work. Like, how am I supposed to call my manager by his first name? Like back at home, I'll be there on some more Darlington, to show some respect. And now, when we're in a meeting, me and this
You're
person,
calling him out.
I call him out. I'm meant to be like a peer to this person. I'm looking at this person. I'm like, but you old though. You're supposed to know all the answers. Just shifting shifting that mindset, which is very contrary to how we're raised,
exactly.
to say,
especially in African families.
Exactly. You need to show up as your confident self and work on your confidence and actually trust yourself. And those were like some of the things where I was like, okay, this is like very important to be able in that meeting, because when I started my career, it was very I started in a really non-traditional space where I was engaging with, I've always had that theme in my career where I engage with really senior people, almost on a day-to-day basis, which can be very intimidating because I just started, guys. I'm a grad. I don't know like what I'm doing, but these guys are here and they want answers. So learning to like actually say in a meeting, but sir, that's not gonna work because of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you're not telling that to like a CFO of a certain country, and you're like, yeah, it's not gonna work, and you have to now also tell them why. So needed to really work on my confidence and just being able to use my voice even in spaces where naturally you would just shrink or be on the sidelines and not say anything. I had a third one and now it's gone. What was the third one?
It'll come back.
Yeah, it'll come back. But yeah, showing up
but
as
those are very important.
Remember
okay,
it.
what is it?
It's raise your hand.
Raise your hand. Okay, let's talk more about that.
So sometimes we think if I work hard, someone will notice that I'm working hard, and then they'll give me the opportunity to, senior level or an opportunity to explore this thing that I'm interested in. And you'll find that people will look at you and they say, you're working really hard, you're doing really well.
And they give you more work.
Yeah, they give you more work. They will give you more work and say, this person is happy. Whereas in your mind, you're thinking, but they're seeing that I'm working hard. They're seeing I'm doing really well. Why are they not giving me this opportunity? And you have to realize people at work are not mind readers. You have to be able to voice out what you want. And sometimes what that looks like, I think for a lot of women, which I love reading like books around women in corporate, because I think I just identify with them more because we're like in the same struggle. We want to be ready before we put up our hand. Like we want to be 80 to 100% sure that I'm going to get this position, or, they're going to say yes before we can raise up, our hands. But men will be like 40, 50% ready, and they'll just raise up their hands and say, yeah, I've done this and this and this and that, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And we're like, but I don't know this, or I don't know that. I don't feel ready. I don't feel qualified. And then we hold ourselves back. So I always say, like, have a confidence of a white male and raise up your hand, because they're very confident.
They're very, very confident.
Very confident. Regardless of whether
skill set.
Very confident. Yeah. So if you see something and you feel like, I really want to explore that, just raise your hand and tell them that this is what I want. Because they'll be sitting there and thinking you're happy, and they'll just say, oh yeah, I can take on more responsibilities here.
That's it.
So raise your hand, tell them exactly what you want.
Yeah. Love that. Love those 3 lessons. Let's talk about your book. Because it was a nice segue when you spoke about, the books that you read by corporate women.
Yeah.
And now you are a self-published author.
Yeah.
And that transition and that title that you now have, right, of just putting your thoughts onto paper and also just being the engine behind getting this book out to people's hands. So tell us more about your inspiration behind Mind Your Sense, a practical guide to financial wellness. What is the inspiration, and when did you decide that I want to write a book?
That's an interesting question, because when it started, it was first year of work during the pandemic. And I think I have really good friends. People actually say I lie about the things my friends and I talk about. But if you would listen into our conversations, I'm drawn to like deep stuff, like when people share their experiences and we all just sit there and we're like, wow, I'm drawn to those kinds of conversations. So my friends and I were just chatting around navigating our first year of work and how we are now like seriously adulting. We thought university and us stretching our sense from bursaries, that was actually adulting, and just getting into this new world of work and expectations that family members have on your salary, people making plans on your salary.
Sure,
And I
sure.
felt like I needed to take that conversation from my circle and just build a platform where people can actually just listen in and be able to say, I thought I was alone in this, but she's going through it as well. This is how she's dealing. Another person can come on the platform and say, oh yeah, I've been through that. I've dealt with it this way. So mid 2020, I was like, okay, I actually opened a YouTube channel.
Okay.
And then I was like, okay, let's do this. And I didn't post anything until like October.
Okay.
I was like, what am I going to talk about? And I remember my sister was also going through a rough patch at the time because it was during COVID.
Yes.
They cut their salaries by like
Sure,
50%.
sure,
And I was
sure.
helping her out and stuff in terms of, how do we overcome this challenge? Like, how do you still live your best life, still pay for your car and your all the other stuff that you need to do? And I was like, okay, but there's insurance for like your credit, the credit that you take out and stuff, your credit life insurance. Let's look into that. But like, we looked into different avenues, talking to the bank, and at the end of it, she was like, I think this is what your channel should be about. I was like, I was thinking about that, but I was very nervous around starting a conversation around money. Because if we look at South Africa, mainly the channels that flourish this side are your love content.
Of course.
People don't really love
content.
lifestyle content. People don't really want to talk about money because they're already like
They're
money.
uncomfortable.
They're very uncomfortable. Just like, yeah, but that's also important. Like that's how you add value. So posted my first video and I was just learning as much as I can as well on on my own and asking a lot of questions. So I had this whole entire research that I had put down, and at the end of it I was like, I have so much material that in as much as I have touched on some of the things on my channel, it would be good to actually just compile everything into a book. And I don't know how many people I helped with buying their first cars. So I was like, it would be nice to just have this in a book and say, hey, get my book. It's on page whatever. If you're not clear, then we can definitely chat about it. So I was like, yeah, maybe consolidate everything as a book. And then 2021, I remember telling one of my friends, I think I'm going to start working on the book. And then I stopped midway because it was a lot. I was just like, some days are good, you're flowing, you're able to write.
All the words are coming.
Words are coming. Other days are so dry, you don't know what to say. You're just like, why am I doing this? 2022, that's when I was like, okay, we are definitely doing this. So December 2022, that's when I was like, what is it that I wish somebody had told me? Just the basics, the basics of personal finance. What is it that I wish somebody had told me or had taught me? That I wish to dish out to other people. So I started the journey and I had a folder, and I always have this folders in my notes on my phone to say Dream Finance Book. And every single time, whether I'm at the grocery store and I think of something, I'll just write it down to say, this has to be in the book. And December pretty much wrote majority of the stuff. 2023, beginning of the year, I had a whole entire manuscript because the research was already there. The material was there. It was just around how do you now bring it together, package it so that it'll be a proper book. And
amazing.
That's how I decided.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's really, really good because I think personal experience is like the best teacher.
Oh
right?
yeah, it is.
So
it is.
when you do have experiences where you can draw like deep, meaningful lessons from, it makes it that much more impactful and that much more important to you. So kudos to you for not only starting the YouTube channel, because also just putting yourself out there can be quite daunting.
It can.
But also just thinking beyond a platform like that on how to package your thoughts, your experiences, which I think some are actually captured in the book.
The book is very personal.
Anecdotes from some people in your life, your personal life. And some people might feel like it's like airing some people's dirty laundry.
I remember just after we were like literally, I think we were on like version 6 or 7 of the book.
Sure.
After edits and edits and edits. And I told the person who was helping me publish, I was like, I'm not ready. I feel like I overshared. And I also just feel like it's crazy that people will be reading, because that's the one thing about writing and like putting, vulnerability to it and not just giving people an information guide, because that was a thought. I was like, you can literally just give them an information guide and move on. And not
but then they can find that anywhere, right? They
they can find that anywhere.
They can get an ebook somewhere about that. The personal experience is what makes the difference, because that's where the relatability comes in.
So I was like, I feel so scared that like I've literally written all my mistakes, everything in there, and now strangers are gonna be reading this thing and they'll know what I did. And we just had a chat about it to say, okay, but what's really going on? You've been like talking on YouTube about all these things. Maybe you haven't shared them to the extent that you did in the book, but you have been putting yourself out there and your experiences. How is this different? And I was like, when you're sitting in front of a camera, you can defend yourself. But when you've written something down, you can't.
People can interpret it in whichever way
they
want to.
I was like, that's my problem. I won't be there when they read this thing. I can't take it back.
That's so funny. But how did you then overcome that like self-limiting belief?
It's a friend of mine who's an author who really helped me to say what you're really struggling with is the lack of control over the narrative that people will get from the book,
and the perception
that they will draw about you from this. And you have to realize that you don't have control over that. That's one thing you don't have control over. So you need to let this project go, because that's one thing, something that's so close to your heart, you want to keep it here.
It's your baby.
Like, what do you mean there's errors? Like, I get so touchy. And I think the whole experience also made me realize that in as much as you create something beautiful, you bring it together, at some point you need to let it go.
Let it have its own personality.
Let
it have its own
life outside of you. And I was like, it's time to let go. And I had to work on that. Like, let this book go.
Let it go. Yeah. So we know that financial wellness is actually one of the key pillars of just overall wellness, and just the key tenets to ensure that you're able to thrive within your work life or in your community as an individual. What are the 3 principles that are in your book that somebody should keep in mind as they start their financial wellness?
I would say first one is smart goal setting.
Okay.
And I think a lot of us, we undermine the power of working towards something. We undermine that. We just like, no, I'll see, I want to work on my finances, but we never really like define it, simply because we know that the minute we say we're going to do something and we like write it down or internalize it, that this is what I'm going to be working towards this year, it brings that sense of I need to then be accountable either to myself or to the people that I tell I'm going to do this thing. And a lot of us are comfortable just saying, oh, I want to do this. We're comfortable with dreams, but we're not comfortable with taking action and actioning out those dreams. Like, oh, I have this big dream of doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but we never really want to make it real and personal and work towards it, because that's where work begins. And we don't like work. We just want to be overnight successes, overnight millionaires. We just want things to happen. But you're like, okay, how are things supposed to just happen when you're not working? Things work because you work on them. So if you're not working on them, how are they supposed to work? So really setting those smart goals to say, I have to be specific. This has to be measurable. This has to be achievable. This has to be realistic. This has to be time bound, to say this year I am paying off my car, for example. Like, it has to be specific. And it can't just stop there, because you don't just say you're going to pay off your car and expect your car to be paid off. There are sacrifices that have to come throughout the year. You making those extra repayments for you to be able to get your goal. So definitely setting smart goals every single time. Like, okay, this month, what am I working towards? And the second one is just budgeting. And people kind of think, no, but I'm good with my money. So there's no need for me to budget, but are you really good with your money? Because all of us say we are good with our money. Yeah, like all of us are like, I'm good. I'm so good with my money. Oh, I'm doing really well. But if we were to sit down with you, I do like financial coaching with some of my friends, and we sit down and I say, how are you doing? And they'll tell me, oh no, I think I've reduced my Uber Eats. I've done this. I'm like, can I please see your bank statements? And you start seeing wonders. The dreams and the perception that we have around how we're handling our money is completely different to
the reality.
What's actually happening. So just good old budgeting, but not just setting down a plan. I think the most important part is you going back to say, how did I do compared to the targets that I set in my budget? How did I do? And a lot of people miss that. So then your budget becomes useless because every single month you're going to set this amazing dreams of how you're not going to eat out, you're not going to do this, you're not tracking it, so it doesn't really like pop up. But another one, I guess, budgeting and leaving below your means, because then that then gives you money to keep. At the end of the day, what I'm really emphasizing in the book is not really how much you earn, is how much you keep. And what you keep then becomes the seed you use to build your wealth and like seed into your financial wellness. Instead of you relying on debt, you know that you've got money saved up, you know that you are saving towards your kids' education, or you are investing towards your dream or whatever you want to do. So how much do you keep on a monthly basis? That should be the challenge, to say, oh, I only kept 3,000 rands last month. And this month, I want to maybe stretch it further to like 3.5, because you can earn 200,000, granted, and still keep nothing. You can earn 10,000 rands and keep 6,000 rands. You're far much better than the person earning 200,000 who never kept anything. So just understanding that it's about what you keep at the end of the month, not what you earn.
Sure. I love that. What's your take on black tax? Because when we talk about being a young professional, first generation, potentially in the corporate space, if you're lucky, second, black tax is a real thing, considering the context of our country.
It is.
What is your take on it?
And there's a whole last chapter actually in the book around black tax and side hustles, because I do acknowledge that we need to give back to our families. We need to help out our families. And there's a conversation I had with a friend, and he was simply saying there's a difference between taking care of someone and helping someone.
Okay, let's talk about it.
So when I help you, it's because I know I'm in a position to help you. And I understand also that I might not be in a position to help you at the time. So I have to then be honest to say, I actually don't have the means to help you right now. So I do not sacrifice myself in the process of helping, because I understand that I'm not in a position to help. But now when I take on the responsibility of taking care of someone, then it's like it immediately takes away that option to say no, because I can't. I am responsible for you, so I cannot say no. And it's like now it's an obligation. I have to, because I am taking care of you as a person. And even if I don't have the money, I'll have to now go into debt and do all this to try take care of you, because that's me taking care of you. And we were also just, I think my other thing is just around people also understanding that sometimes the best thing you can do for your family is to actually build wealth or invest somehow in their future. Because take, for example, I have a family, on a month-to-month basis, they're able to like pretty much do well. Not maybe they're able to just get the basics met. I have younger siblings who I know that they'll be going to university very soon. I might feel the need, because we as people, we want the best for our families. And I think that's where this whole thing comes from, to say, I want the best for my family. So I might actually just want to give them money on a monthly basis so that they maybe move from peanut butter to like cheese. For example, just to say, I'm working, I want to see that difference, right? But I'm also saying if they're okay with peanut butter, they can have cheese every now and then, maybe not have cheese every single month. How about you then start to say, my younger siblings at some point will need to go to university. Then you start investing towards that. And it doesn't mean, along the way, December, whatever, you can buy them clothes, you can do this, as long as like you plan your things accordingly. So you start thinking of it differently to say, it's not just about meeting the needs in the short term. We also need to look in the long run as well to say, but what can I do today to help out my family in 10 years' time? And I know that's not fancy because when you start working, people sort of expect you to prove that you are working.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, well, proving that you are working, meeting short-term needs, maybe short-term wants in most instances, might not actually be the best way for you to give back to your family. And, my pastor says we often underestimate what we can achieve in the short run versus what we can achieve in the long run. Because we are young, you're still establishing yourself. There's no way that you can build your family a mansion right now. Maybe if you're earning like a lot, you can. But for most people, you can't. So you also have to balance it with the long run and the short run to say, what I'm doing now to help out my family, it's amazing. In the long run, how can I add more value? Because for us to move from where we are as Black people, someone has to have the vision in the family to actually, get the wealth and set up people for, the future.
Yeah.
So that's my take.
Yeah, yeah. And just in closing of our conversation, if a young professional finds themselves in debt and living from paycheck to paycheck and they can't keep up with their day-to-day living expenses because of mistakes that they've made, what advice would you give to them as means to start the recovery process and then to stabilizing and then building?
Yeah. Okay. I think recovery starts with, of course, like acknowledging that this is what's happening right now. And also, I think we tend to run away from things, especially around debt. There's a lot of shame around that. We tend to run away, like, I'll just ignore the debt collectors, I'll just ignore the bank, I'll ignore this. But that doesn't really help. It's a temporary relief. It's like putting a bandage over a broken bone. So what you need to realize is you need to go back to the bank. If, let's say it's a bank, it's a credit card or whatever, you need to go back to the bank and say, okay, so I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm struggling right now to keep up with my debt payments. What are some of the options that I have? They might say, okay, we can offer you like a loan consolidation type of vibe where they pay off your creditors and you end up just paying them and you agree on the payment term as well. But I think in doing that, you also need to realize, well, I do not need to be taking out more debt. I need to at least now bring in budgeting into my life to say, okay, you cannot take out on debt. We possibly have to now reassess your lifestyle and like trying to bring you below your means so that you're still able to cover, your day-to-day living expenses and still be able to pay off whatever it is. And another one is you can now also work on increasing your sources of income because a lot of people have a single job, it pays them once a month. So possibly look at, but how can I pay back my things quicker? What can I do? What am I good at that I can possibly monetize so that it helps me to get extra cash that I can then use to pay off these debts that I have. So definitely finding a strategy and working with banks. I think I don't know, as Black people, we're afraid of
the bank.
Of the bank. We just see the bank as this institution. But going back to say, right now, I just want to, cancel my credit card. I don't allow me to take loans, but of course it's contrary to their business. But just, try to put in measures in place such that you don't end up like going back. This month is rough. You use your credit card and the next month is like it's piling up. So those type of things would be useful.
Sure. Some bonus questions, probably my second favorite part of the podcast.
Oh, wow. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
One podcast, video, or book, or even article that you've listened to or read has shifted your perspective about work?
That's a good one. It has to be... It's Candice Erickson. What's the name of that book? I can literally see her. I posted this book on my Instagram. But it's a black professional's guide. Intelligence is not enough.
It's not enough.
Yes. That's the
Candice
book.
Anderson.
Yeah. I
Okay.
enjoyed that book.
Okay.
Yeah, it did wonders for me.
I love that. Yeah.
Intelligence is not
Isn't
enough.
enough. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
What does wellness in the workplace look like for you?
Wow, it's giving me the opportunity to learn, giving me meaningful work, but also an environment that is conducive for my growth as a young professional. And pay me well.
Of course. Pay me my money.
Pay me my dollars. Yeah, I think once I find those 4 things, just like a good working environment though is a big one.
Very, very important.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Yeah. And where can we find out more about your book and find out more about you?
Well, I'm on YouTube, Fulufhelani Mashapa. I'm on Facebook, Fulufhelani Mashapa. I think I write a lot on Facebook this year, like just my thoughts and things. On Instagram as well, Fulufhelani_Mash. The book, I'm the main distributor right now. Still trying to get it to bookstores and stuff. But yeah, so I'm the main distributor. You just hit me up and say, hey, I want a book. And then we take it from there.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Fulu, thank you so much for making the time to be here and just sharing all these pearls of financial wisdom.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time and your insights. And if you're watching this, thank you so much for watching. If you're listening, the same goes out to you. My name is Zinyane. Remember to catch the podcast on all major podcast streaming services on YouTube. Subscribe if you have not. What are you waiting for? Consuming such amazing content, but you haven't subscribed. Please do stay tuned into more of what we have in store for my career story right here on Wellness in the Workplace.